Good evening. Good evening, Baltimore. And welcome back to Transparent Talks with Wendell Freeman. I'm your host, Wendell Freeman. And I'm honored to have you join us for our third episode. Wow, 3 episodes down already. It's crazy. Today, we're tackling a crucial and deep personal topic, juvenile crime in Baltimore. I'm joined by a very special guest, Krystal Gonzalez, a dedicated advocate for change who tragically lost our daughter, Aaliyah Gonzalez, at the Brooklyn Day Festival last year. Welcome, Ms. Krystal.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Before we begin this episode, I'd like to take a moment of silence to honor Aaliyah Gonzalez and all the young lives who lost their life with gun violence. All right, Krystal, your story is incredibly powerful, and it's definitely heartbreaking. Can you share with our audience a little bit about Aaliyah and what happened last year on Brooklyn Day Festival, now that we're on the anniversary?
So, I always like to talk about who Aaliyah is. It's very hard for me, even a year later, to speak of her in the past tense. So, I always talk about her energy, I always talk about her light. Aaliyah was the most loving, thoughtful, compassionate person that anybody would ever cross. She was always thinking about the next person. And she did that because she found a way where she could connect with people. And in order to connect with someone, you got to know what makes them move. And that's one of the things that I always taught Aaliyah. You can't judge somebody. You got to always see and analyze why people are the way they are. And she took over that. So with Aaliyah, it was always figuring out how she could be helpful to someone else. So that's Aaliyah's energy, that's her spirit. And now, with that out the way, I can now move on to what most people have discovered about Aaliyah. July 2nd of 2023, Aaliyah and a few of her friends decided to go to a block party. And I'm not familiar with the area, Aaliyah's not familiar with the area, but apparently this is a block party that's been going on for over 2 decades, right? So not thinking much of it, because me growing up, and I'm from New Jersey, our block parties are sacred. This is a place where community comes together, there's food, there's fun, there's, the young people, the old people, basketball, all kinds of different activities. So I'm like, okay, great, she's going to have a good time at a block party. She's 18 years old. She just graduated high school 3 weeks before the shooting. And lo and behold, the aftermath is there was 30 people shot that day. 2 people passed. Aaliyah was one of them. None of it made sense. None of it.
Absolutely. My heart is heavy today. And it's heavy because talking about this topic of juvenile crime, because that's what a criminal took Aaliyah's life. We're going to call it spade a spade. This is transparent talk. We're going to be transparent here, if you don't mind. A coward. Because I met you through the campaign trail, through what I don't like to use the word grief. I say horror that happened in that time frame. And I've never met Aaliyah personally, right? Never met her, but you would have thought I met her because of the image of her that you have. It's like when I look at you, I see her, and it's like, hey, you would have thought that was your sister. Beautiful young soul that got snatched. And the thing is, you were visitors in my city. So first and foremost, I want to apologize for the city of Baltimore. Because Baltimore is my city. You are a visitor in my city. You trusted your daughter to come to a block party, like you said, that happens every year, right? That everyone knows about, right? And you let her come here for that to happen. So I want to apologize to all of the city of Baltimore. I'm not going to bring her back, but from the bottom of my heart, I just wanted to say that. So thank you again for coming on and sharing that positive life about Aaliyah and sharing that as also everything you said about her as well. We wish you very much, April. Okay.
That was very big of you. And I'll tell you, it blows my mind that we have to have these kind of discussions. And when I hear people say you let her go, Aaliyah was very responsible. She was a young adult, and this was the very first time that she was ever out past the curfew. And you wondering why. First of all, she was 18 and she just graduated high school. Now, this is the one and only time that she was able to go out, but she lost her life. The one and only time that she was able to. So that, again, none of it makes sense. Still doesn't.
Absolutely, it doesn't. I hate when people, and just real quick, I hate when people say, they can relate to something that you're dealing with, right? Because if you never lost a child, you don't know the pain. Like my mom, I lost my mom. We celebrated 6 years of her last week. 6 years my mom been gone, right? Thank you for that. And people always tell me, like you said about Aaliyah, is that pain goes away and it's gonna work okay. But that pain never goes away. It never does. I cried the same day when I found out she passed 6 years later. So I'm telling the audience and people out here, you have not lost a child. You could be compassionate. We're not selling for you to not give your condolences, but stop saying I understand when you don't understand. Just give your condolences, pray, and keep moving forward. Your strength and the commitment to making a difference, because we're going to talk about what you do and everything else. But I just wanted to the community, because I told you this before a few months ago. I said you could have easily packed up and left Maryland. So, I'm gone. I'm out of here. I'm gonna stay here, and you're not from Maryland, and that just, I love you so much for that. I do. So let's dive into the root crime. What do you see as the main factors driving young people more towards criminal behavior, in your opinion?
That is a very complicated question to answer because there's so many factors. This is a decades long issue. This isn't something that happened overnight, right? And I talk about this often. Brooklyn Day shooting, that was an effect of something. So there were many causes there that people have been ignoring for years. And so, in my opinion, because I can only speak from my own personal experience, is that we've got to get away from the very thing us, the things that we're glorifying and the things that we're consuming, and pretending like this is real life and acting it out as if this is the way that the world should work is unbelievable. You have tons of neglect, and I mean that by our federal government for these underserved, underfunded communities. And by that neglect, you also have the people living in impoverished conditions. When you walk outside and there's glass and there's IV drug needles all around, there's this open drug market. These are things that our people are consuming on a daily basis. And so, how do you expect a healthy mind to come from that environment? You wouldn't see that in the surrounding cities or counties, but yet it's allowed to happen here in the city of Baltimore. And not only in the city of Baltimore, there's only certain places in the city of Baltimore that this type of activity is allowed.
Absolutely. And just to piggyback and answer the question, just me growing up, like you said, there's a lot of factors on why juvenile crime is the way it is in the city. I just think about when I was growing up as a child in Baltimore, losing my best friends at 13 to 14 in gun violence by grown men in the city, seeing 4 to 6 bullet holes in them. And these are people that my stepfather used to cut their hair on. So growing up in that environment now, the juvenile crime has not, I'm not going to say it has not always been an issue, because it has.
when I was growing up, you always seen dudes hanging on a corner. You seen a whole bunch of stuff that you shouldn't have seen as a child. But now, as I'm a man and growing up with my two children in the city and seeing the disconnect from when I was growing up to when the biggest thing that I feel like is communities aren't communities anymore. I remember a quick story real quick. I remember one time I was growing up and I was cussing with a couple of my friends. And I was walking home though. And I didn't see any adults outside at all as I'm walking, cussing, whatever. I'm thinking it's cool. And one of my neighbors made a screen, I'll never forget her. She said, come here, let me talk to you real quick. I'm thinking she about to give me some candy and stuff. She whipped me. I ain't gonna lie. She said, I heard your mouth, I'm whipping you, right? And before I even got home, I had another whipping from my from Mr. George, right? And then when I got home, I got another whipping. Now, the communities back then were actually communities. You couldn't do things. Now it's like things happen, especially with our youth, and it's like we just turn our back. Or we say, you know what? They need more recreational stuff to do.
Or they say, period, it's just not my business.
Right. But if it happens to you, then it becomes everyone else's business. But when it's somebody else's, we turn a blind eye. And I think for me, that was the biggest issue. You can say the father's not being there. You can say all these other factors. Yeah, great. But I think the biggest thing is the community. And I just feel like, and I don't want to say this, but I'm being transparent. I feel like we are so far gone from those days where communities were communities that I don't really see any real way of saving that bond that we once had. What do you think about that?
Gosh, so again, so many factors play a role here. We have gotten to a place where we have married the government and not married the person that we chose to have a child with. And I say that because now someone is offering you, i.e., welfare benefits, where you decide, even though you love this man, you decided to have a child with this man, you can't even report that he lives there because you're getting benefits from the government. I talked about this before. So now you have the absence of a father figure in the home, and that trickles down, right? So now not only are we talking about juvenile crime, but we're talking about crime in general in a broader sense. So even if dad is not in the home, maybe possibly dad was murdered out in the street. So now you have a child growing up with that knowledge that their father is now taken out in the street. That becomes normalized in our neighborhoods. That's what we're talking about, right? In our communities. So now we're dealing with trauma from that. So you have these incentives to keep families apart, right? When are we going to realize that the trinkets that are given to us are only there to our detriment? They're not incentivizing you to get a grant for you to go to even a community college or a trade school to, better get a better station in life. None of that is happening. None of it is happening. So now we have this conditioning going on, and it's generationally passed down. This is not something that happened overnight. There's so many factors that play a part here. I know that there are people who have and need assistance. I know that for a fact. I was one of them. You know what I'm saying? So when I speak, I'm speaking from absolute truth and transparency. I also know that you have to humble yourself and submit all of your documents in the blood of your firstborn child to even qualify for these things. So why are we subjecting ourselves to this all the time and saying that it's normal? Because they are saying that I'm going to give you a house and choice voucher to pay for your rent. And you don't want to get a better education to get you a better station in life because they'll take away your housing subsidy.
Yeah, that's powerful. Addressing juvenile crime requires a comprehensive approach that tackles these underlying issues that we just talked about. When, me, I didn't grow up with my biological parents. I grew up with legal guardians. And people ask me all the time that they say that I didn't have a real male role model because I didn't. I didn't learn how to tie a tie till I was a man on YouTube. And that's an issue. But my son, he knows he's gonna know how to tie a tie way before me. But my whole thing about that is that, like you said, these are issues that have been going longer than me and you've been alive, breathing air combined together. And to speak on that, I just feel like not saying that women shouldn't have a crutch or people in general should have a crutch for that. but I believe that it should be a time limit because the issue is that people get comfortable, they get complacent, and they also think that the government is going to take care of them forever. And I never had that mindset, and I try not to instill that into the people that I am around. And honestly, I have to separate myself from those type of people. Not saying because I'm not better than you, it's because I have to understand that life is just more than that. So when I started understanding that, I started understanding I can't hang around because it's all a mindset. And it goes back into making sure that accountability. And I think it's no accountability when it comes to juvenile crime. I think no crime in Baltimore, Maryland in general, it's taken seriously. And I hear all these politicians and police chiefs to say, "Well, we got the laws on the book, enforce them," but nothing is getting enforced.
Right.
So when nothing is getting enforced and it's not getting enforced at home, what do we do as a community?
Yes.
Where do we turn to?
Absolutely right. So what's happening, and I struggle with that term juvenile crime so often, and I'll get to that in just a second. But what's happening is that we're seeing these laws are in place, and they are actually obeying the laws that are in place because they know that there's a culture here, meaning I can do whatever I want and there's nothing you can do about it. There's no punishment that's going to deter someone from committing a crime because they'll get caught and released. That's the way that things are going, right? So yeah, I'll talk about juvenile crime a little bit more when I say I have a little hard time with that term, but we'll use it today.
Absolutely. And I want y'all to check out Redirecting Our Culture.
Yes, I love your shirt.
Yes, yeah, I know the owner. I said, all right, I said, no, the owner. Make sure you do check out this website. We're gonna talk about that later on in the show, but this shirt pop, and I know y'all gonna see it all about us looking. Please go to this website, check out this platform. At the end of the day, we are redirecting our culture together. It's not just one person, it's not just two people. It takes us as a community to say enough is enough. When we stop depending on the government, when we stop depending on, other people having our back and going out and saving our kids, then, things will get better in our communities. We have help, we have resources. I tell people all the time, anybody's big brother. If you need somebody to call, I'm about to be in that uncle ring. So call me Uncle Dell. I'm here for you. But enough is enough. And we gotta hold people accountable.
Yes,
Gotta hold people accountable for their actions. All right. We'll be right back after a quick break. Don't go anywhere because there's too much to discuss on this special episode of Transparent Talks with Wendell Freeman with Miss Krystal Gonzalez. Thank you for coming on again. We'll be back.
Talking about it a little bit. So starting next Thursday, July 11th, 7-Eleven, and we're hoping to get that sponsorship as well. Check me out at 3:30 p.m. on WOLD 1010 a.m. on Radio 1. I'm so excited to talk about community connections and economic development and a lot of the things we shared here. So please, if you're interested in being on the show, it's a radio show. So we do have in-studio guests. Email me at Tori, which is TORI @gmail.com. I'm looking forward to plugging you in. I got some travel coming up, so I'll have a couple of guest hosts. But once I get myself back together, I'm gonna send you some dates. I would love to have you on the show.
Absolutely.
Thank you guys so much. And listen, be kind to yourself, be kind to others.
My mic is on.
Okay.
I'm on. Yeah.
All right. Sorry about that. Just a live podcast, some technical difficulties happening, but we still vibing. All right. All right. So welcome back to Transparent Talks with Wendell Freeman. I am your host, Wendell Freeman, and thank you all for joining in live. We have Miss Krystal Gonzalez, in the building. What are your thoughts on the current policies aimed at reducing juvenile crime? Are they effective or do they fall short? We pretty much just was talking about this recently. So I would like to get your feedback on it a little bit more. What are your thoughts on the current policy aimed at reducing juvenile crime?
Oh my, am I on? So, current policies, obviously are not working or not effective. Again, there's nothing that deters anyone from committing a crime. No one is thinking twice about it, So, what I believe is that, yes, prevention is better than the cure. When I can specifically talk about Brooklyn Day and I hear the dozens of calls that went out, and they were saying that people are out here with guns and knives, and not one police officer responded or showed up that day. Now, fast forward after the shooting, after my daughter's laying there dead, I hear from the police commissioner, by the time we got on the scene, the incident had already occurred. But the incident didn't have to occur. So now we're always being reactive. We're not being proactive. And there's nothing out here that is deterring young people from committing crimes. We have programs that need to be put in place for young people. I believe 100% that if these people are committing crimes, then we need to get them into, guess what? Law enforcement training. I say this because now we need to show young people what it's like to work on the other side of the law, the right side of the law, right? But there are no programs like that. But here's the thing, Wendell, we're 700 down in police officers. So why isn't anyone thinking that maybe we should, right, with these young people, get them into some form of military training, some boot camp, some form of disciplinary training so that they see what it looks like to have, to operate under authority, to have that kind of discipline within their lives, because that's what it's all about. You are not even disciplining yourself. You're not governing yourself. You're not. You're out here wilding out. That is it. You can't control yourself. So now we've got to get you into a place where you are being a productive citizen, right?
Absolutely. Just to piggyback on what you said, I agree with you 100%. The current policy is completely garbage. I'm just going to call it what it is, completely garbage. I read it, I looked at it, and I said, this is another reason why Maryland is a laughing stock of the country, because juveniles run the state of Maryland. If you're 10 years old, you can shoot me today. A few hours get released back to your parent when nothing happened, right? It disgusts me that the lack of accountability in the state of Maryland, and then we wonder why people are leaving. People leave states for 3 reasons: crime, education, and property taxes. And all 3 of these issues is some of Maryland's biggest issues. You just said something that was very key about the 700 officer shortage. I was one of the only candidates that ran for mayor last election who had a plan to even that out. Because at the end of the day, you cannot tell me with a $500 million budget that the police get every single year. You're not going to tell me that if we really wanted to get officers in the city, if we really wanted to protect the people that pay taxes each and every year, who are homeowners, who are losing their children, who lose their family members every single day, if we wanted to do it, we would. But guess what? It doesn't matter to them because the top 3 officials in Maryland are covered by police protection. So it doesn't matter about the regular civilian until it happens to them. Then you tell us that these policies won't be effective until November. So you're telling me that people are still going to run the city, kids are still going to die, there will be no accountability, but Maryland's on the up and up. Save that for somebody else. Save that for somebody else. These policies are not good. They're not effective. And if we continue to keep electing the same individuals, we will continue to have the same bull crap happen every single year. When we go back to Brooklyn Day, that should have never happened. You're not telling me that a block party happens every year, even longer when I was running around in diapers. You're not telling me that they didn't have the right permits and you didn't know it. You're not telling me that you didn't know about it when we already got the police calls that people were calling in at 6 o'clock, letting you know that it's hundreds of people here. Make that make sense to the community. But then we walk around like everything's normal. I'm not going to sleep until I find them. We a year later. But this is what people don't want to talk about. This is what we continue to elect into office. People who gaslight and tell you what it is during election time and do nothing to solve that issue.
Well, on that note, now I guess I can talk about this whole term juvenile crime
Yes, ma'am.
because it's laughable. Here it is. I lost my 18-year-old daughter to gun violence. We are seeing young people carjack at an alarming rate. Now, carjacking is very different. It's not very different, but there is a subtle difference between a car theft and a carjacking. The carjacking has that component of a threat to bodily harm to a person. So there's a weapon involved in most cases. And so young people are thinking that it's okay that I threaten your life and steal your car. And we're calling it juvenile crime, right? Young people are out here shooting and killing people at an alarming rate, and we're still calling that juvenile crime. If you were in another country and a young person had a bomb strapped to his chest or had an AK-47 walking the streets, that young person will be considered a terrorist. But here on American soil, we made a nice fluffy term called juvenile crime. Murder is murder, right? You don't get to call it juvenile murder. You don't get to call it juvenile murder, right?
Yeah, I hope the listeners listening to this right now. Go ahead.
And it's crazy that we're allowing this to happen. We're saying it's a juvenile crime so that we can lessen the blow. But for mother that lost her daughter, you can't lessen this blow. I've got to live with their life sentence that they gave me for the rest of my life because Aaliyah will never get up. You understand what I'm saying? So let's not call it juvenile crime. These young people know exactly what it is that they're doing. If they're old enough to have sex, they know what they're doing. So you're going to tell me now their brains are not fully formed until they're 25 years old. And yet they can enlist in the army and serve the country at 18. They can get married. They can sign legal documents. They can buy a home. But when they pick up a gun and shoot somebody, their brains are not fully developed until they're 25. How far are we going to go with this? We need to ask those questions. How far are we going to go with that theory?
Absolutely, and I'm glad that you touched on that because you're absolutely right. And I think the media plays a big part in that. When you always pop on the news, you see city in crisis, and what you see, juvenile crime. But like you said, we have to call crime what it is. If you're 10 and you're able to put a gun together, go out here and kill somebody, you need to be charged as that for that charge, no matter your age limit, right? Because it doesn't make sense that you can kill somebody, go home back home saying mama eat Cheerios, and somebody's now planning their family member's funeral, all of because the law is out in the books in Maryland. It is ridiculous. It is ridiculous, and I agree. And we talked about, obviously investing into our youth and providing an alternative, to crime is crucial, like you talked about, and that was part of my plan as far as the officer shortage was like you talked about. But I was talking about more like in the seniors, like having seniors in high school have that as a class. So when they get out of high school, they could just go straight into basic training and get officers in the street, but not just with the police shortage, the vacant house shortage. If we fix that, right? It's a lot. It's just a lot.
House shortage. So here we have recent purchase of 2 hotels to alleviate homelessness. Sounds like we have a permanent structure to continue to funnel out homelessness throughout the structure. That's not alleviating homelessness. You have thousands of vacant homes in the city. Instead of creating more homeowners or affordable housing, we purchased the building so that we can keep homelessness coming in and out. We got to understand what this looks like when the money is involved. You understand what I'm saying?
Absolutely. We gotta watch where the money going. I'm glad you touched on homelessness real quick because I don't see the difference. I read something where they invested $90 million in the homeless, but I work downtown Baltimore, and every time I go downtown, I see hundreds of them. And you know what they tell me? Yeah, people come down here, the media come down here, the mayor come down, everybody come down here for a photo op. So I'm gonna help you. Bull crap. You tell them here, call this number. You don't even get in contact with nobody. They tell you come to this building tomorrow. They shun you away like they didn't even talk to you before. These are the constant issues that are keeping us as black people down. And I didn't, somebody told me like, like just because they black don't mean they you can. And I didn't understand that when I was growing up. But as I'm growing up and I'm seeing the world for what it is, right? You would think that in a city that we have a black mayor, the city council president is black, the governor is a black man. You would think that saving the youth will be the top priority. But instead, and I said this, and I'm gonna go more deep in that because some of juvenile crowd believe that they're hiring the youth to do these things. And I feel like that's why it's no real accountability. And I said this when I ran for mayor. My family said, you shouldn't be saying things like that. I said, I don't care. God got me. I know what's going on. And I'm going to tell the truth on my show. This city is ran by a criminal organization that allow young people and gang members to make $1,000 a year of tax money and make the streets mayhem. But when I say that, it's don't say that. No, I'm going to tell the real because that's what people need to know. That's the truth. So that's what we just elected. Again, thank you very much on that topic. Again, we talked about the suggestions here today. Justice can indeed transform. We can handle conflict and support our youth, but they got to be held accountable. And I keep saying that because until we have accountability, we're always going to have this mess. Until we put the cuffs on these criminals and say, I don't care if you're 12 years old. You did the crime, you got to do the time. I'm sorry about your parent crying. My parent crying too, who lost a family member. Okay. So before we keep going to our next subject, I just want one question for you real quick before we keep going. With the juvenile crimes that are on the book, what do you think could be differently? What do you think the state could do? I know you can't talk about. What do you feel like the state could do to make this state better for us as people?
Legal, like you mean as far as laws are concerned?
Yes.
So there are a few things, and people are asking me if I'm running for anything. I'm not. I'm gonna just say that right here, and I'm trying to be the most effective as I can be without being in office. So we can
we can knit that in the
right
bud
now. Absolutely, laws need to change, and they need to change to be effective because again, the laws are dictating what our culture looks like. None of this is happening if it wasn't predicated on the laws that we have currently. Because again, I like the Ivan Bates citation docket. I'm hearing more and more about that. If we're holding people accountable in that regard, that's amazing. Start holding parents accountable. That would be amazing. I would love to see more of that, because at the end of the day, somebody's raising your kid. The streets are raising your kid. You know what I mean? So, and it's sad because now you get to sit next to a mother who is now fighting for not just my life and my children's life, but all the other babies that are out here in the streets because our kids are not surviving these streets. Gun violence is the number one killer for our babies from 2 to 25. It's not an accident. It's not an illness. It's gun violence. And we have got to do so much more collectively together, so that means households, that means governments, that means communities members. You can no longer keep turning your back on these young people because they already feel like nothing. And then you walk past them, you are further perpetuating that thought process that they have that I'm not nothing. You know what I mean? And we've got to stop doing that. So there's a lot that needs to be done. But again, this is a collective effort because this didn't happen overnight. It's not going to change overnight, but it starts today. It starts now. I think enough people are fed up with losing their loved ones in the street.
Absolutely. We're going to take a quick short break, but when we come back, we're going to dive deeper into Baltimore hot seat. We got a game to play, so we're going to switch the topic a little when we come back. All right, but stay with us. Miss Krystal Gonzalez is on the Transparent House. Wendell Freeman, thank you for coming on again, and we'll be right back. Stay tuned. And that's where ABM Marketing Group was created. I've been an owner of a marketing company since I was 18 years old. I'm gonna be 30. I'm telling my age now, but I'll be 30 this year. Right? I've been the CEO for 11 years. Right? I've hired over thousands of people in Baltimore City because I knew at the end of the day, the average job I knew that once I learned the skill set, the opportunity, and the marketing aspect of what I need to do, I was able to train other people to do the same thing. So that's what I decided to do. I decided to take men and women from high school, grown women, adults, teach them how to make six-figure salaries every single year. So that's where ABM Marketing Group came into play, right? But then after that, right, we go into further depth, right, into why I decided to run from there. Lighten things up a little bit and get to know each other perspective better. So we're going to play a game. It's called Baltimore's Hot Seat, Controversial Opinions Edition. Okay, here's how it works. We'll take turns answering questions after the other person can agree, disagree, or add a perspective. That sound good to you?
Yeah.
All right, let's do it. All right, question one. Do you think Baltimore should implement stricter curfew laws for minors?
First of all, the curfew does not work. It sounds good in theory, but it does not work. It just doesn't work.
Yeah.
So I can't expound on that anymore. Stricter laws, it just doesn't work. Period.
Yeah.
They're not going to be inside. Yeah.
I think having stricter curfew laws is like, I don't know, like telling a mental patient it's okay to just come out early. It's nothing's going to change. We looked at the curfew laws in the city and look what happened. The youth tell you to your face, I don't care.
Mm-hmm.
I'm outside, literally 14, 15 years old at 11 o'clock at night saying, I'm outside. That's it. So no, that's my answer. No, they don't need stricter laws. They need accountability. All right, question number two. Is it beneficial to involve community members in policy efforts? I'm sorry, policing? Policy efforts. Yeah, policy efforts.
Policing.
Oh, I'm sorry. Excuse me.
That's
Policing
right.
efforts.
So the question is it beneficial to involve community members in policing efforts? And the answer is absolutely yes. So it's so important that police build a rapport within the community, but they're not out there doing that. We know that they're not out there doing that. But what does that look like for community leaders? Those of us who are getting together and canvassing. See, there was a time during election season that everybody wanted to canvass. Where are they now?
Yeah.
Right? So why isn't it a normal practice for our police officers along with community leaders? Now, see, we are seeing a lot of individual stuff happening. And again, it doesn't work. We are so much stronger in numbers. So policing, community leaders together, getting out there in the community and canvassing and building rapport within the community, that goes so far.
Yeah, and just to piggyback on that, I don't want to keep going back to my plan, but I'm keep talking about my plan when I was running for mayor. Part of my plan was to have public safety officers that come from communities. East Point and Baltimore, we get the training that they need to be a public safety officer, and those people will be in the communities because, like you just said, the problem is we have this known snitching mentality is because the officers are in their cars 70% of the time. They don't know their residents. They don't know what's going on. So when something happens, nobody is quick to say, "Oh, I know what happened." No, but if people know who are protecting the communities, we'd be more open to that. So yes, I am with that 100%. Question 3. Should Baltimore public schools implement mandatory trade school courses?
Absolutely. I believe so. I think it would be so beneficial to young people to enter the workforce with already having a trade or some skill set. That is the number one thing. When I hate to keep using the term babies, but I'm so affectionate when it comes to the little ones. But when our young people have something to do with their hands, they don't understand. They are so creative and gifted, and they have nothing to do. They have nothing to do but be out here running amok. So give them mandatory trade skill set. Let them leave high school with some form of training so that they can go out and be productive citizens, start businesses. Oh my God, let's teach that. Let's do more of that. Let's show these young people, because they already got that spirit. They want to make money, they want to get money. Well, let's show them how to become an entrepreneur instead of working for someone else, right? We're not doing that, but we got to build them up. And I'm here. That's exactly what I'm here for, is to build them up.
Absolutely. Part of my education plan was, have trade in our schools, in every single school, because you just touched on it. Everyone's not college bound. Everyone doesn't want to go to college, but if we can set, and I just think about if these things were in school, not just trade, financial literacy, driver's ed, sex education, all these different things are in school before our kids come out. I believe that would give them an advantage that we didn't have growing up.
It's such an advantage. And I just want to interject, because it's not just being college bound, but look at the state that we're in these communities, right? So giving them a trade is going to help provide for their household. That's important. That's right away. That's priority, right? Absolutely. So giving them something to do and having that skill set to be able to make money and provide for their families, because that's all they out there hustling for, right? So there you have it.
Absolutely. Next question. Should Baltimore allocate more funds to community-based programs instead of increasing the police budget?
So I have my thoughts about performance and bonuses and policing and things like that, and I'll get into that now. So here we are, continuing to award police for poor performances. Salaries go up every year, bonuses are given every year, and yet we are seeing the worst crime that we've seen in so long, right? So why not invest that again into the people that is going to benefit? It's mismanagement of resources. The money is there. We know the money is there. It's just not being allocated into the right places at all.
Say, I didn't. My executive producer know what they was doing when they asked me this question right here. Honestly, when part of my plan, I feel like the programs that we currently have in the city of Baltimore, when it comes to reducing juvenile crime, is not it. I'm just going to call it what it is. It's just not it. I don't care about the numbers that they say. I'm really from East Baltimore, so I'm in the trenches every single day. And I'm talking to people. And I also looked at what Mr. Ivan Bates said when he endorsed Sheila Dixon for mayor. He wasn't lying when he said that GVRS, Safe Streets, his office only prosecutes 2% of cases. But we're walking around like this is the key to save Baltimore when it's not. And I'm not saying that it's all, because there are some great ones doing the work, and we all know who they are. But a lot of these need to be halted, investigated, until we figure out where this money is going at. We got programs that are saying, "Oh yeah, we want $5 million to this program," but none of those people that work there have any type of skills on how to solve conflict. That is the issue that I have. So I'm not saying to stop all programs, but at the end of the day, we need to do a firm investigation on what's going on. All right, quick question. Last question, number 5. Do you believe that mandatory sentencing for juvenile offenders does more harm than good in the long run?
Okay, so this is a little complicated too, and I'll try to be as fair as I possibly can be in my answer. So when a person commits a violent act, and I'm just going to use murder, I believe the sentence, first of all, there's no sentence that would account for the life that was lost. Let's get that out there. But the sentence needs to be appropriate, right? Now, here's the other thing, Wendell. Most of these violent offenders, this is not their first time,
Mhm.
right?
Right.
So what happened before that was not dealt with? Again, leniency, right? They're not being held accountable, and they feel like, because now you've developed an appetite. We see that so much.
Yeah.
Now you got a taste for it, and now you're going to perfect what you've done. And they have this saying, practice makes perfect. That's exactly what's happening,
Right.
right? So this is not their first time. So when you talk about sentencing being longer, that really depends on the crime. And again, if it's murder, it absolutely needs to be appropriate. Um, but this is why I'm so big, and I've been meeting with superintendents and schools and trying to make sure that we get some form of gun violence prevention education into our school system, because we need to reach these children way before it gets to the juvenile justice system. 13, 14, 15, that's way too late. That's way too late. And by this time, they've already downloaded a ton of information from things that they've seen. You know what I mean? So yeah, pushing for it.
No, absolutely, and just to touch on that, just really quickly, I believe I'm not saying I always was taught that, like I compared things to like the stove. When I was young, my mom was like, "Yeah, don't touch the stove; it's hot." And I would touch it, I got burned. I'm like, it burns, and I knew not to touch it again. Right? It's the same when it comes to crime that happens all across the state of Maryland. If the first time a person does an act and they're held accountable, right? And they still go out and do the same thing again, well, that's not, I don't believe that's a sign of insanity to me. If we give you an opportunity to come change your life and you do the same thing again, you deserve whatever happens when it comes to certain laws. But I agree with you. With murder, it's no exception. I don't care if you did it at 10. I believe it's life for life. You should spend, and it's not fair because we will never get that loved one back. But at the end of the day, you telling me giving you 10 years, and I say it all the time. I've been in courtrooms where they gave somebody 10 years for capital murder, and they come home like everything is all good, but that person is lost forever. Doesn't make any sense to me. Miss Krystal, thank you for playing along and sharing your insight today. What share with our audience about addressing juvenile crime in Baltimore?
Final thoughts. Wow. So here's the thing, hope is not lost. My husband gets on me all the time because he's like, well, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm doing whatever it is that I can. I have no answers for you other than I've got to get my tail up every single day. Because when Aaliyah was shot, none of it makes sense. I think I said that many times, but at the same time, I could not sit still with knowing that she was not in my home anymore. So I had to get up every single day. So hope is not lost. And I believe that we can absolutely be effective with building up our people. I talk about this all the time. Right now, you're wearing my nonprofit organization T-shirt,
Shout out to Redirecting Our Culture. Shout out to them.
Yes, redirecting our culture, redirectingourculture.org. You can find out more information about the nonprofit. So I was very intentional about the name of the nonprofit because that's absolutely what we're here to do. We have got to get away from glorifying the very things that are killing us, i.e., the drugs, the sex, the money, the all the things. You got the artists out here. One artist wants to outdo the next, so they're being raunchier and raunchier or more threatening and they're telling on themselves in the rap songs. You understand what I'm saying? So we've got to get away from that because it's doing nothing but killing us. And we got to be very, very honest with what it's doing. And there was a time that we walked with respect, pride, and dignity. You'll hear me say that often because we've got to restore respect, pride, and dignity back into our communities. Because when you have respect for yourself and you have pride within your community and you walk with dignity, you care about what you look like when you go outside. I'm the first one to be like, if you don't get that bonnet off your head, but that's me because I care about what I look like outside, right? So we have gotten away from that. But here's the thing. We know that when we put on our garments and we adorn ourselves and we feel good about ourselves, guess what? The one thing we're not doing, we're not going out and killing people, right? And it's so funny because you talk about that was just my simple dress. But see, it's a mindset, right? It's a mindset. And then you think about keeping The grounds. I say this often too. Keeping the grounds. Look around your neighborhood. You see all kind of trash. Well, when the last time you grabbed a broom and swept in front of your household, or you waiting for the city to do it? Right. But this is your spot. Whether you pay for it or not, you live here, right? So when I talk about redirecting our culture, we are doing mentorship. We're building our people up. We're showing people the greatness that's within. We're showing people just how God has made you. And it's not this bull crap that you've been seeing all this time. I'm telling you, when you walk as a king and a queen that you are, things will start to just attract to you. It'll blow your mind. It'll blow your mind. And you're doing it right now, Wendell. You're walking in your purpose, and people are seeing it. And I'm so glad to be a witness to it.
Thank you, Miss Krystal. Absolutely. Change start with all working together. We create a brighter future for Baltimore's youth. Just elaborate on that. Today, we talked about juvenile crime, and we talked about the effects that it has on communities, families, and everyone around. I also want to thank Mr. Gonzalez for coming in studio. I should have had you up here. Next time I got to have you up here. I just want to thank him.
My husband, he's always here, but
he protecting his queen. He got to see what you don't see. You know what I mean? But I just want to thank you, again for coming in. But again, this show is all about being transparent, and that's why I decided to run for mayor, because as a father, I cannot, get that, I don't want to get that phone call about my children, but it happens every single day. It's time to redirect the culture. It's time to put us Black people in position of power. I love that one thing that I do. I own a Black solar company. All my employees are Black. And I'm not saying that he said I won't hire, I won't be that clear. I love all the people. But as a young man that is a CEO of a Fortune 500 company that came from nothing and that can hire, people that look like me and put them in position to change their not only financial situation, but think about stuff that they never imagined, like getting out of Baltimore City. I've taken people out of this city and put them in other states, and they said, I've never been out of Baltimore. We got to change the mindset. And when we change the mindset, we will change it. Like Ms. Krystal said, you got to start waiting for DPW. That's not enough. I'm sorry. They was going to be enough that we'd be at the cleanest city in America, but we don't. We are the dirtiest city in America. We are the overdose capital of America, right? Just are facts that we're talking about. We have one of the most ran leaderships in the country. I think we were ranked like 110th out of 147. You got to understand that is terrible. That is terrible. That is terrible. That is terrible. Ms. Krystal, before we get up out of here, is there anything you want to, I know you just told the people about redirecting culture, but is there anything you want to plug in? Anything, how can people reach out to you if they want to help with your movement? Like just plug in whatever you want real quick.
Yes, so definitely, if you are not following me on any of my social medias, you can find me on Instagram at Inspire Me Cree. So it's Inspire Me, Kree. That's on Instagram and TikTok. Also, you can go to redirectingourculture.org. You can find out more about our events coming up, about ways to volunteer, about ways to join the movement. We would love to have you, welcome you into this space that's creating great change. I'm so excited. I was newly appointed executive director for the new Park Heights CDC.
Congratulations.
So, right, thank you very much. So I'm doing the human development side so they can build up the structures, right? I say this all the time. You can build up the structures, you can have these nice buildings, but if the mindset of the people don't change, they're tear down every single time. So that's where I come in. Has been my life's work. People have been just now discovering me because this is the way I've been my entire life. It's just after the passing of my daughter that has pushed me into a place that I have absolutely nothing that holds me. Nothing on this planet would shake me the way the death of Aaliyah has shaken me. And so I move boldly and swiftly, and I don't care. I don't wait for permission to do it. I just do it.
Absolutely. Again, thank you, Miss Krystal Gonzalez, the owner of Redirecting Our Culture. She already plugged in everything that she had. Close tapping with her. Please join us. I need to see you at the next event. Real quick, just can you? Aaliyah Day was very beautiful. I was glad to be there. I wish I could have been there, been a part of it, but next year I'll be a part of it.
Yes.
But it was very beautiful, Aaliyah. We love you. I tell your mom this all the time. Yes, I met her through grief and heartache, but I'm her son now. She can't get rid of me. We stuck together. So, Pops, I love you over there too as well. You can't get rid of me neither, all right? Again,
so let me
so
talk about Aaliyah Day.
I bless. Yes, man, go.
I
You
just
good.
wanted to
Go
close
ahead. You
out
good.
with this. So Aaliyah Day, Wendell mentioned it. July 2nd, 2023, worst day of my life. Ended up being the worst year of my life afterwards. But it is the day of the Brooklyn Day shooting, right? So this year, I wanted to do something that reflected her light. I cried a billion tears throughout the year. Every single occasion, birthday, holiday, everything was so painful. So this July 2nd, I wanted to have a festival, a celebration of life for her. And so we had basketball tournaments. There's double dutch competition. There's food trucks. We had some performances. We had a marching band come out. We had some activities for the kids, a fire truck. It was absolutely amazing. And guess what? It is going to come back every year. We're going to have an Aaliyah Day. And so be on the lookout for that because we are bringing communities together and we're showing people that you can come out and have a good time in the park and not worry about losing your life. This is how you really do it.
And on that note, thank you to our listeners. Thank you for tuning into this episode of Transparent Talks with Wendell Freeman. Thank you, Miss Krystal, for coming on again. It was a pleasure. Anytime you need me, got me. I'm there. I already know it's like right for you. Join us next week as we continue to explore the issues that matter most to our city. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Visit the website. Purchase the. I ain't got it on today, but you can go to Redirect Our Culture, buy this too. But also go to wendellfreeman.com and buy Transparent Talk shirts. We do have them on sale. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And until next time, Baltimore, stay safe. I love you, and I'll talk to you soon. Until next